Hey guys, welcome to the video. On the last video, we talked about the 7 steps of the program development cycle. Now we're going to focus on the first step and all of its details. So, just recapping, the first step of the program development cycle is number 1, understand the problem. And now we shall dive into its complexities and reasons. So, let's talk about understanding the problem. So, what is the most difficult aspect of programming? Well, it is fully understanding the problem you are trying to solve. Why? Well, on any project, a description of what the user needs may be vague. Your client or user may not really know what they want for their program. Or in another scenario, your users, as well as your clients, uh, who maybe have this idea that they know, but really they just frequently change their minds after seeing the sample output. So, what makes a good programmer? So, a good programmer must be part counselor and part detective, part Sherlock, we could say. You have to figure out what your client, what your user wants. So this may be ambiguous depending if you're in the field of computer science or not, but who are the users? Also referred as end users. Well, these are people who employ and benefit from computer programs. These are the people that computer programmers write and create software for. These programs are made to satisfy a need the user has. So let's take this to a corporate context. In a corporate context, who could be considered a user? Well, there's 3 examples. For example, an HR department. In their case, what does this department need? Well, maybe they need a list of all employees that work in a company. Now, in the context of a billing department, what does the department need? Maybe it needs, a list of clients who are more than 10 days overdue on their payments. And in the context of an order department, maybe what does the department need in this case? Maybe, in their case, they need a website to provide buyers with an online shopping cart. So, what must programmers first understand? They must understand that their users want what the users want from the programs they're going to create or that are going to be created. When I plan a program, what must I think about first? As a programmer, the output, what the user is going to see as the final product. That's something I must think about first. If I'm a programmer, whenever you guys are programmers, this is something you really have to think. They're just saying begin with the end in mind. And that's pretty much the idea. The output is the end in mind. So think about this first. So what happens after I understand what the desired result is? Once I understand what this desired result is, you can then plan the input and processing steps to achieve it. Because if once you understand your problem, you pretty much can now create the logic and the program that will solve uh, whatever need your user or client has. Because if you do not understand the problem, you will not create a system, a program that will solve that client's need or problem. So now let's take to the next level. What is a good simulation scenario that implements what we just talked about in this step? You can think of an HR department from a cleaning service company that hires your firm, and as a programmer, you are assigned to this project. So, what is the need of the HR department? So, they tell you our department needs a list of all employees who have been here for over 12 years because we want to invite them to a special dinner where the company will announce the retirement of our present CEO, Johnny Doe in this case. So, does this look like a simple request for you? It seems simple, doesn't it? However, that isn't the case. On the other hand, now if we give this idea, if we give this situation to an experienced programmer, they'll notice something that many others wouldn't realize. That the request that this department just gave us, that this HR department just gave us, is an incomplete request. What do we mean by this being an incomplete request? And here's the situation. The programmer might not know the answer to the following questions about which employees to include in the list. And these are the questions. Does the HR director want a list of full-time employees only, or a list of full-time and part-time employees together? Does the HR want to include people who have worked for the company on a month-to-month contractual basis over the past 12 years? Or only regular permanent employees? Do the list of employees need to have worked for the organization for 12 years as of today, as of the date of the special dinner, or as some other cutoff date? What about an employee who's worked 8 years, took 4 years, maybe a 4 year leave of absence, and have been back for 5 years? What data should be included for each listed employee? Should the list contain both first and last names, social security numbers, employee phone numbers, some other specified order? Should a list be in alphabetical order, employee ID number order, length of service order, some other specified order? Should employees be grouped by any criteria such as department designation, years of service? A lot of things to really think about. You know, it comes from a seemingly innocent, simple request, it is very big and ambiguous. This is where with the idea of, you have to be sort of a detective, a counter detective, come to play. And here's the thing, when we talk about these questions, can the programmer answer these questions? Look, here's the situation. The programmer cannot make any of these decisions. The user, in this case the HR department director, must address these types of questions. And in our present example, it is our HR director that will have to answer these questions, like I just said. So, what is often provided to help the programmer understand the problem? Several pieces of work called documentation. And what is documentation? It is all the supporting paperwork used for the creation and maintenance of a program. What types of items does documentation include? Well, number one, original request from the programmer for the program from the users. Two, the sample output. And number three, descriptions of the data items available for the input. And that is pretty much it for today's video.